Orange trees, and you've got to have, when we're talking about space too, orange trees are really big. We've been having looking after a property in Turak now for 15 years, and they have an orange tree, and the trunk's this wide. Right, it's huge. And it has fruit all year round. Right? Maybe except a month, but it's got a trunk on it like that. So I have to climb up into the orange tree to prune it. So they're pretty big trees if you let them grow. And that was planted in 1910 when the property was first settled. So yeah, they can last for a very long time. So another way you can actually provide nutrients to your trees is, of course, companion planting and all those sorts of things. So you can use nitrogen fixing trees in your citrus. Right. But again, when you've got your citrus, we've identified that most of the root systems are going to be in the surface here. Right? So we don't want to disturb them particularly. So I have some anchoring roots. So when you put your nitrogen fixing trees in, you want to do what they call, the root petition. Right? So you want plants that are going to produce roots probably deeper, right? And still provide nitrogen to the tree. Right? So things like Eleagnus are particularly good. Those roots typically go down deeper, so your silverberries, those sorts of nitrogen fixers are really good. Right. Silverberries. Right. You can use some of the acacias. They have also been used to provide additional nitrogen to trees. I think typically acacias are not going to be very long lived, and there's the rub. That's the challenge. They're not going to last a long time. But initially, as nurse species for citrus, really good. So if you've got an open area like you were talking about before, and you're renovating a vineyard or somewhere out in the open, use your acacias as nurse trees for the citrus. Really good. That's really effective because their roots typically will go down but underneath that and won't be in competition with the citrus and still provide nitrogen.
What about your like chives and your onions and?
Yeah, at the moment we want to provide nitrogen.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're all those sorts of nitrogen fixing trees would be very good. We don't have the typically forest gardening and companion planting and those sorts of disciplines come from England, America, those sort of climatic zones. So we don't have much information on nitrogen fixing trees with citrus because they don't grow citrus. They certainly don't grow citrus like we do. So if anybody's has got some examples of nitrogen fixing in citrus, would be all ears because we need some more information on those sorts of things. Comfrey doesn't fix nitrogen, but it's a mineral accumulator because out of the other, like the nutrient level, that's we've got nitrogen fixed, and then you've still got the other 42 different nutrients required by the plant to grow successfully. So how do we provide those other 42? Well, things like Comfrey would be a good one. Right. But you wouldn't. This particular form here is really good. This is a dwarf Comfrey. So he's only going to get about this high, which is ideal. And they still have surface roots though. Right. So, but they will work quite well in with your citrus, no problem at all.
What about in pots, John? Is it still? Would it be good to just cover the surface
in a pot?
In a pot, in a large pot? No.
No. In a pot, you'd always grow citrus by itself.
Yeah.
Its demands for water in a pot paramount, and also for food.
Yeah.
In a pot, I typically just keep a citrus by itself. Yeah. You could grow some annuals around the top, but you will have to put additional resources in there to keep that all kicking over.
Yeah.
But in the ground, Comfrey would be fine. In the tropics, we use as nitrogen. We use ice cream bean. It's a really good nitrogen fixer. Like in slightly warmer climates. Mind you, I've had this one growing. I planted that one growing in my citrus grove at Lilydale for 5 or so years before it was cut down, and it was growing really, really well. So it's an option. We're getting a lot more, so you can certainly grow some of those other experimental plants. Other plants like pomegranates, right? Really good. Their requirements are almost the same as citrus. So if you can grow citrus, you can grow pomegranates. Pomegranates also have a certain root system, and they have a couple of anchors that will go down a lot deeper. And so they're also particularly good to grow in that sort of environment. You want to give them all space, but they'll grow beautifully together. This is another plant. Now there's a lot of different other. We can go into companion planting and things like that. Any more questions on that?
Would peas and sugarcane be nitrogen fixers?
Yeah, nitrogen fixers like peas and beans and those sorts of things. Yeah, absolutely. Typically though, a lot of the legumes need quite a bit of sun and they'll do well. I mean, we have this is a little ground cover pea, which is Earthnut pea, which is a little ground cover. That grows really well as a nitrogen fixer. Around citrus and that type of thing, if you're getting enough sunshine. The legumes typically require more sun, so you can't grow them underneath directly, but out in the gill, no problem. You can do that.
What was the name of that ground cover again?
That's Earthnut pea.
You eat it?
Yeah, it has a tuber. Has an edible tuber like that. It tastes like chestnut, and you can see they spread quite rapidly in the ground. Lovely little thing. Another plant you can grow is yarrow. All right, that's a really good little plant to grow near your citrus as well. That's another mineral accumulator. Right. That's quite a good ground cover around citrus. I've grown that a fair bit. And they also have the advantage where they have umbel flowers, so they have flowers like that, which of course are good for beneficial insects. So, possums. How do you eat possums off your citrus? A lot of people come in to talk about protection. Possums and rats. Anybody come across a citrus and all the peel's been eaten off it? Right? That's usually rats that does that. Not possums. Possums will eat a chunk out of it, typically.
Snails will eat this a little bit.
And snails will eat them as well. Yeah.
And ringtail possums are taking the zest off and leave it.
Yeah, ringtails will eat the whole thing. You'll just have this
Nude
peel, and they'll just eat all the skin.
Yeah. They know it's there.
Well, they know the healthy bit. Right? The zest is actually where it's at. You know, they're not interested in the rest. So, how do we get those things off? Yeah, well, owls are good. Pretty difficult things to do.
John, we had an old linden tree that was full of dead wood in the middle, and the possums never got up into it until we decided to give it a bit of a prune up so it looked a bit neater.
Yeah.
As soon as we took all the dead wood out of the middle,
the
possums got up and all the fruit was taken.
Now what is now look, the nutrients for citrus we've sort of covered. A bit more questions on the nutrients for citrus.
I've got a question about the nut.
The nitrogen.
No, the nut thing.
Yeah. Earthnut. Yeah.
Once you put that in, you're not going to be able to harvest the nuts anyway.
Not around citrus, that's right. You have to, but typically things like that will grow and spread out from under that. I often use things like, and under my citrus I typically use things like nasturtium, rock samphire is particularly good. Yeah, and actually underneath them, yeah, really good. This is a good ground cover. But of course, the citrus, you don't really want to cover your ground too much. Typically, a mulch layer is really important. So you can put some deciduous plants adjacent to that would be good.
Why don't you want to
need
cover
more
your
mulch.
ground too much?
Because you want to get to the fruit.
All right. Yeah.
And it's really important with citrus in particular that you pick up all the dead fruit. You don't leave that rot on the ground. So you really want to keep them fairly open so you can just get to the plant. You can put them to a certain extent, with some stuff around them, but you just want them seasonal and low, if at all, so you can still get the fruit. Typically, that's going to become more important if we start to get fruit fly down here, which is possible. We could get fruit fly down to Melbourne within a relative 5-10 years. That is possible, unfortunately. So get those sort of habits now and just clean them up as you go. Training, we're talking about pruning. Right? This is an Espalier fruit tree. From my good mates at Marywood. This is the Capilline, and you can see it's just been trained flat. So you can sort of see the structure there. What I don't like about this method of construction is you'll notice that that one's actually tucked in behind that one. Right? Yeah, and that one's crossing that one. In the open garden, you wouldn't do that. So, if you wanted to actually buy this plant, I'd be transferring it to take all these little hooks off and transfer it to your own garden and undo some of that so they're not crossing. It is possible that where they're crossing, they could graft themselves in time. It's possible. But more than likely it's going to be a position for funguses and diseases to get in as it rubs. So I wouldn't recommend that form of pruning. It's okay to grow them flat, but I wouldn't cross them over.
Are there particular shapes that are better for citrus than others, like for that sort of Espalier?
When we talk about growing them flat, we typically, the old thing about the French Espalier system or something like that, the T-shape, you can do that. It's not ideal though for citrus. Typically, that sort of winky, Willy Wonka form of Espalier would be far better for citrus. If you have bare trunks like these guys typically do, you can get sun scorch onto the and burning on the actual trunks themselves. So it's far better to have sort of that open, that sort of closed shading system. And I bought one of these for a client 10 years ago now, and transferred it to some wires in the trellis system, and it's about that big. And virtually impossible to keep them that narrow. They will get this thick at a minimum, typically, and it's got a trunk on it now like this. So they are big plants if you're not using dwarf rootstock. So bear that in mind when you're doing that sort of selection criteria. If you want a Espalier, typically go for a dwarf rootstock. Wouldn't go for, depending on your soil. If you grow a Warrandyte, then you'd use a normal rootstock, which is just too hard to grow there. The best is one. Pruning, do you need to prune citrus? Not really. Just a general shape is all that you would need. We're going to do some renovation. Now it's warmed up a bit. I might get to the top outside. And we're actually going to cut back one of the citruses out here that's got a whole stack of diseases wrong with it. So we can cover a bit of that sort of renovation work on citrus. Now what's the pests and diseases, which is the most prominent pest and disease that we have on citrus overall? Gall wasp, yeah. And here's something I prepared earlier. Now gall wasp, all you can do is cut it out. You can see the gall wasp there. Right. There's the little beasties. Is anybody familiar with this? And anybody actually cut it open and had a look?
Yep.
You can actually see the little
Lighters.
You can see the little tiny. In that one, there's about 10 or so little babies coming out. The citrus gall wasp is a native wasp. Alright. And we can pass that around. Yeah?
Is
Touch
it,
it, really?
is it alright just to open it rather than cut the whole branch?
No, you actually have to cut it off.
Yeah.
There's a couple of, I'll talk about that when I do some renovation work, but what happens with the gall, see there's actually one there, and I'll have to take that off. Right, you can see it forming there. And there was another one
One up here.
as well. There's one there, see this one?
Yeah.
Massive thing.
Yeah, it's huge.
And then there's another one above that as well. So we're going to have to take that whole thing out. There's got one there, one there. Yeah. There's nothing I can do about that because that's right around. Another one there. This is the time of year when if you examine your citrus, you'll pick these up.
But what if you have like a lot of lemons coming on this branch, yeah, for example, like a lot, but they're not ready yet.
I've got a lime over there the same.
So would you just cut that branch and that's it?
Pretty much. Yeah. What you want to do is stop them from popping out.
Yeah,
right,
but because I was reading, if you cut it open,
Yep.
they die.
That's right. If you basically,
You would too, so I'll cut you in half.
yeah, if you cut that, open that up
Yeah.
like that.
So I mean, rather than cut the whole
yeah,
branch.
you can do that.
So yeah.
And then, the actual they will die inside.
Yeah.
They'll desiccate, die, and then the plant will slowly do that.
Heal it.
Unless you remove the gall, though, overall, like when it's on only half a branch like that one, fine. But what tends to happen is that one's gone right around the actual thing. It's got to go. Once it goes right around, there's no other option.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just a lump like
It's
that,
just a
so
lump.
it's probably
you
easier.
can, and it'll grow around it. That's fine. The gall wasps they're really poor flyers, so they only travel. They prefer to hatch out and then go and lay their eggs straight on your plant. Typically, if a neighbour's got some, they won't go and actively find a new plant, but they will be blown there, right? Because they're only about that big. They're only tiny little wasps, but they don't like to fly much at all. Once they've done their job, they want to go and lay their eggs, and they can lay up to 200, 300 eggs each insect. So with the female, so they're nasty little buggers basically.
So what do you do with that? Do you burn it, or you need to burn
Some
it?
people say burn them, and that's it. Burn it. Look, the reality is, if these now, I could probably just safely put them anywhere. They're not going to hatch out because it's too early. More towards October, which is when they pop out, typically in our climate, it gets more and more tricky. So this time of year, if I was to prune them off, I could probably really compost that and it wouldn't make any difference because the insects will die. Because they haven't pupated yet, they're not ready, they're too little. If you cut them open and have a look though, you can see them and they're almost like a little tiny grub. You can actually see the grub forming like that. Once you get them to that sort of size, you probably want to burn it or discard it or something.
Can you use the good parts for grafting or for propagation?
No, typically not. You just get rid of them. It's hard. It's pretty sad. They only really attack lemons, limes, grapefruit. You don't get much in orange. You don't get them in the native citrus, which is weird because they're a native state, but they don't tend to go for the native citrus at all. Not much in limes, but you will get them. I've never seen them in mandarins, never seen them in orange. But everything adapts.
We've got an orange.
You got an orange?
Yep.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, as I said, everything adapts. So typically, they were nasty and things. So, and there's no real way we can get rid of them. You occasionally see people they'll get this sticky tape and they'll hang sticky tape traps up to get rid of them. Don't work. It actually, if you have a look at the insects on those, it's mainly the beneficial insects you catch. It's not the nasty ones. Unfortunately,
predators?
there is a naturally occurring predator for that because we have it's a native bug, so we have a native predator. It's not here yet. It's slowly coming down. It's following them down. These came down first, and the predator's on its way. So eventually, it won't be a problem. I'd like to see a breeding program and then introduced down here, that'd be good, because they are becoming a major economic pest for me. So that would be good, but nothing on that as yet.
What is the predator?
It's got a really good technical name, and I can't pronounce it, so I'm not even going to try.
Can you spell it? An insect or a toad?
If you Google,
Is it another wasp?
it's another wasp. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually lays its eggs in the other thing. So you can still get the gall, and it'll go and lay its eggs in the gall. Is my understanding. I'll be correct on that. There probably could be even a few. It is coming down, I believe.
Can you check to see if you can order the wasp?
Haven't done anything yet. No. Yeah, homework. It's the homework.
They don't typically like the cold though, do they? Like, I haven't seen them in.
No, they're up. Yeah, they're a northern species.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I haven't even seen gall wasps in my.
The colder you get,
Yeah,
up in the hills we don't have as many.
yeah.
That's for sure. But, yeah,
Yeah,
they don't like the cold.
Don't tell me that. I'll be dead by then. My dad had a really bad problem with his gall, like his lemon tree was totally full.
Yep.
So we cut the whole thing off.
Yep.
Just the trunk.
Yep.
And let it reach through, and that was beautiful.
Yeah, that's the option. Yeah.
We thought, oh well, it's dead anyway. Like it's, you know.
Yeah, because if you leave the gall, I haven't got to show you, but if you leave the gall, you'll typically have a branch, and this is a good way to spot them. You have a branch like that, and then you'll get this beautiful new shoot and come up. Typically at any sort of angle, and usually there's a gall about here. And it affects the actual plant, and it will produce this beautiful new growth. And these will actually produce fruit and everything. They'll go well. But if you leave the gall there, the gall in 3 years' time will die. And so the entire branch after that will die. So you've got to prune it. And if you leave them go, they'll just cover the tree. I've seen branches like that, and every single sections had galls up to that thick on them because no one bothered to remove it. So it's pretty much a case of if everybody takes responsibility and prunes and removes it, it's better for everybody. Yeah.
So would you recommend you sort of prune your, say, lemon tree to open it up a bit so that you can get in and prune those?
Yeah. Citrus aren't like other fruit trees, so they don't need necessarily good air movement if they're growing in the right spot. If they're growing,
If you've got branches crossing
it's
over
more
and stuff like that.
branches crossing and stuff, it'll rub. Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, so you prune those. Yeah, ideally, that's the only pruning they really need. You're trying to keep it little, but if you, again, it's good selection of rootstock. If you want to keep it little. Now this particular pest here, I'll pass this around. This is a leaf miner, and there's a fair bit of it around. You can control it by spraying it with an oil spray at the right time of year. Because you've got to get your timing right. So typically, if you start spraying them, I think it's in November. If you spray them in November with an oil spray, you'll get rid of most of this. And it's an insect that actually, the eggs get laid and then it burrows in as a little caterpillar and it just eats in between the cuticle, in between the margins of the leaf, and just strips it away. It causes this rather sad defoliation.
But
So
if it's
November's the best time just to halt the breeding cycle?
Yeah, just hold the breeding cycle and spray them in May. Or, as soon as you see it, prune it off.
So is that
Yeah,
an
you just
eco or
discard
an
it.
neem oil?
That way
or-
they won't get to a point. Those ones now are patched, so they're actually too late. So if you get to them early before they start to go brown, and remove them and burn them at that stage or discard them, you'll pretty much control it. But it's not really a major problem. It's unsightly, but in effect, what you're going to be doing is pruning the tree and keeping it smaller, which in most cases for a lemon is a good thing. So I just skip them. They also go into oranges, limes for certain lemons, mandarins get them. So they're fairly fine.
Are they mainly on new growth? It seems to be when the leaves are really soft that they.
Yeah, they like the new growth.
Yeah.
When they're actively growing. You won't find them this time of year because everything's hardened off.
Yeah.
So it's when they're actively growing, that's when the buds are around. Typically over summer, because oil sprays are probably the best way to spray them. You can't spray oil in summer. It's too hot, which is when it's foliage. So you can use other things like pyrethrin's no good because it doesn't work during the day. As a next one, is it? It's another one. There's another particular. I've got it inside. There's a little box. There's another. It's a neem. Any of the neem sprays are particularly good.
What oil do you choose if you're going to spray with oil?
Oil, you use a. I never use a petroleum oil. I use a plant derivative oil. So either natural oils or even a subspray, rather than petroleum oil.
And how do you make up an oil spray, John? Do you just mix the oil with some water, or?
Yeah, just make an emulsion. Basically, just mix it up, spray that. Soap spray is also very good. They will work. They also work on scale insects, which is your other major thing you can get on citrus, is scale, and aphids. You get both of those. Again, an oil spray or a soap spray is probably your first go-to. For the neem oils, the neem spray is particularly good for the leaf miner.
Are there any predators or anything like that from the leaf miner or beneficial planting that we could do to help control pests?
Yep. Overall, and this is one of the main problems with citrus, we haven't got many guilds yet, but putting a lot of plants together in to form guilds is a good idea. Particularly things that are going to produce lots of flower, like marjorams, thyme, those sorts of things are really particularly good. This one has been really good because that flower is quite. This is earth chestnut. That's a really good beneficial flowering plant. It just forms a low mound and then produces these beautiful umbels that flower. And they flower early spring, so they're very good for that time of the period. Yeah, coming straight out of spring.
Would you even plant that right underneath the tree, or?
No, because it needs a bit more sun, so you put it away adjacent to it. But beneficial insects, of course, will travel huge distances once they find a food source. So yeah, you've got to keep them open. Another plant you could put near your citrus too are mulberries. Mulberries and citrus seem to go very, very well together. Mulberries typically have a deeper root system than in the citrus, so they can be used quite well together.
How small is that dwarf mulberry?
The dwarf mulberry, that's very dwarf, is only about this high. It's fine and little guy. We've got dwarf black mulberry as well, and that's about a little bit higher. And then we've got the big white mulberries. Yeah, so you wouldn't plant them close to each other, but you put them in the centre because they can grow quite well because they won't interfere with their root cells. Another good plant to put in for citrus is any of the salvias, of which there were 25,000 million different salvias. Salvias are really good for beneficial insects generally. So salvias and citrus go well. Rosemary, very good. Yep, rosemary, excellent. And then you've got all your onions. So a lot of your onions and garlic plant, really good. Society garlic, which flowers for probably a huge amount of time, it's good for beneficial insects, and you can use the flowers, of course, as well. But any of the onion plant is really good. Your flowering leeks, your perennial leeks, your perennial chives, walking onions, any of those, really good around citrus.
And once again, we just plant things like that right underneath us.
Again, yeah, just outside, not directly under the canopy, just outside. Because typically, you want to keep that canopy underneath. Typically,
Just outside the drip
and the
line.
root systems are so fibrous that it's really hard to get anything. The only thing you can grow directly under them would be things like really strong root systems, like Comfrey's. This Turkish rocket would be fine, for example. Really strong root systems that punch down through that system would be fine. But the other plants, they're going to struggle. They're really going to struggle. So we have some renovation work we can do on this particular citrus outside. Is there any other questions we want to cover? Have we sort of covered pests and diseases? Yellow leaves. Of course, we need to have a look at all the different ways our plants are going yellow. Okay. That is nitrogen deficiency. Right? That's typically what's happening there. We've got some, it's a little bit of vein work, but it's typically fairly yellow. That's not classic nitrogen deficiency. Right? There might be a little bit of iron deficiency in that as well, which is why the leaf's starting to sort of turn a bit. A little bit of iron deficiency as well. This time of year, this is fairly common for your citrus, and don't panic. Even if I was to feed that, it's still very cold. And so the nitrogen and particularly the iron may not be available because of the temperature, because they come from a warmer climate. So it's not unusual to lose some leaves on your citrus, particularly internally. You get some leaf drop over winter. Don't panic. If they all suddenly drop off, yeah, panic. There's something else going on.
If they're not taking up the nitrogen over the winter, then
I'll be taking up some, but they're not actively growing and producing new growth.
like fertilising at this time of year and just wait for spring.
Yeah, you put on typically a low nitrogenous fertiliser, so you might put in, typically wouldn't put much cow manure on this time of year, a little bit over the top, but now's the time when you want to be mulching. So you want to put your straw mulches, things like that, typically that thick, not up against the trunk, but keeping the soil a little bit warmer this time of year would be very beneficial, with a little bit of fertiliser on top, but just a little bit.
So what about stable litter?
Your stable manure would be good, because that's got, you might get some weeds with that, but that's okay typically, but it's going to be very beneficial. But again, you wouldn't put it heavily on, because you don't want to push them out into too much growth this time of year, because you might get a frost, and the frost will knock off all that new growth as well. So you just want to keep them just ticking over the winter, and then come spring, bang, up they go.
Okay, another question.
Yep.
I have loads of oxalis at my place, and if I let it go, I would have it under my lemon tree. Would that be a problem? Because they're not actually producing any, they're not really growing very much at this time of year. And it will die
Oxalis
down,
is
so
one of those unfortunate pests where it's a problem. Bill Morrison would say that you probably have a chicken deficiency more than an oxalis problem.
well, then you can't put your chickens underneath.
You can, for that, I'd give it a go. I'd give that a go. The same digging out oxalis could be an option. But again, you want to control it. So you keep part of the root system covered, you wouldn't give access to that. Because they will typically get rid of the oxalis pretty well. So it's something to look at, possibly. Oxalis is one of those things typically difficult to get rid of, and if it's growing under citrus, even more so because you've got the fibrous root system of the plant. But, yeah.
Wandering Jew, got a lot of wandering Jew under the citrus.
Chickens love wandering crab. Love it. Absolutely. Love it.
But otherwise not problematic for the citrus.
Not that I'm aware of. It's just a general ground cover. It's more problematic for your puppy dog than the actual plant. But anything like that, it's not really going to be a problem. Could harbour lots of snails, which are not ideal for citrus. They'll actually climb up and get into it. So probably, of all the ground covers, that's probably not the ideal one. But, yeah, good chicken food.
Okay.
just back to the pests with the
Yep.
snails. Have you come across anything you can put around? Like my mother-in-law says it's fishing around the front. I don't know if that's
We use copper tape. Copper tape is particularly effective. And you just band it with copper and they won't actually cross it.
And my Gall has had excellent success with mounding up coffee grounds around stuff.
Okay. Coffee grounds, eggshells was another one. Yeah. I prefer the copper tape because when I put the copper tape around it, I know it's there. The coffee grounds are going to disappear and everything else is going to disappear. And or the bird's going to scratch it around or whatever and we'll leave a gap. The copper tape's really good. When I first moved to the property, we only had 5 trees in the place, 2 trees or something. And I started planting all this stuff and the snails came from everywhere. And we had arboreal snails up there eating shoots and stuff. The copper tape was the only good. Yeah. I mean, there's a lady up in outside Hillsville, somewhere up that way. She's the Melbourne producer of snails. She grows 10,000 lettuce every year for her snail production. And there's just the normal garden snail.
For eating snails.
For eating. Yeah, she eats them.
To France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole business. And we just squash it. Horses for courses, whatever you want to do. It's fine. But yeah, I can't see myself eating too many myself. But I eat the other things. I eat the other oysters and I eat oysters. Yeah. But anyway, so yes. Food is abundant. It depends what you want. You want to eat citrus or you want to eat. Alright, any other questions on those?
What about, you're going to talk about teenage boys.
Yeah. Teenage boys are really good, particularly teenage, doesn't have to, age is not really necessarily a problem. And sex isn't necessarily a problem. It can be male or female. Urine is a really good source of nitrogen. So I've met quite a few people in my time on the planet, male and female, that do that in their garden on a regular basis.
But
and
not on the
it's
trunk.
only really in recent times that have divorced us from giving back to horticulture, to garden. Males, my boys in particular, yeah. And when we had a party, yep, we had a particular spot, we go and mark the spot, and that's where they go. It's really effective.
And when they stop having parties, you can really see the difference in the
It works, yeah. It's an old, yeah. Boys piss on the lemon tree, yeah, absolutely. But you got to qualify. Don't get on the lemon tree, just on the base of the lemon tree. Because if you do it, you will burn the new growth. You actually could have put it on the plant. So anyway, it's a really good use of a really under-tapped resource. And at the moment, it's just going down the drain.
Can you use to rats
Marking out the territory?
Yeah.
I don't know about that one. Possible. Don't know. Yeah. Needs more research that one. Yeah, you do have to Google that one. Yeah.
Or just try it.
Try it.
Still got a couple of plants down here. I was just wondering, what was that one with the rounded leaves?
That one?
Yeah.
That's again one of the silverberries. That's a nitrogen fixer. And that can be used in adjacent to the beauty of these Eleagnus plants is they'll tolerate some shade and still nitrogen fixed, so they're quite useful.
Nice berry to eat?
This particular one doesn't produce a berry, it's a low one, but the other ones do produce quite a big berry. Yeah. But they all produce beautifully perfumed flowers, and so they're worthwhile from that regard as well.
And the other,
yep, that one there, that's perennial buckwheat. Buckwheat is a phosphorus, phosphorus scavenger. So that'll actually produce. There's a bit of research I've been reading lately that this will actually help with phosphorus. Phosphorus is one of those minerals that we talk about. There's going to be a phosphorus crisis apparently soon. Like we're getting peak phosphorus production. And this is particularly good at getting phosphorus. A lot of the chemical companies, mining companies are scouring the planet to get the last remaining sources of that particular mineral, because they expect it to go through the roof. Because we need a lot of it for our agricultural system.
No, they just need to change the way they farm.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, grow that.
Is it perennial? Was it
That's
perennial?
a really good
Perennial,
plant because
yeah.
you can use, it's a perennial buckwheat. It can get, in a wet spot, it can get to that size if you let it. And it can
Is
get
it
this wide.
invasive though? Is it how invasive?
Only
is
in a
it?
wet spot if you get
Right.
out of control of it, yes.
What do you do with the leaf, John?
Control onion weed.
You could
I've
control.
read somewhere that onion weed is showing there's a problem with phosphorus in your soil.
Okay.
problem.
Be good to do the research because that'll grow well in sun or shade. You can also harvest the leaf of that and treat it like spinach. So it's a useful plant in many regards. So yeah, it'd be interesting to do that.
And the silverberry that'll grow in what will it survive in?
Pretty much concrete.
Oh, good. I've got some.
They're really, really good.
Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty tough. They're a group of plants that Edmund Walling used to use in the 1920s and 30s. And yeah, we're sort of promoting their overall list. There's about probably 20 in the set, if you like, and some are low growing like that one, and some are trees, and everywhere in between. But they all nitrogen fixed, they all have beautiful picking flowers. Some of them have really good berries of very different sizes.
Make a hedge out of them?
Really good hedge, yeah.
What about variegale greens? Is it wise to use it? Variegale greens, because they're quite spread. They could,
Variegale greens you could use,
could
yeah.
keep like cool soil.
As a
or?
ground cover
Yeah.
in case
Is
of
it-
citrus, yeah, you could.
It's all right?
You'd find probably eventually they'd move away into the sun though, because they actually like the fairly sunny position to do well. But you can certainly do that.
And with the orange tree,
Yep.
is it true or not that horizontal branches produce more fruit rather than the one which grow upright? Is it wise to push them a bit down, or
No, it doesn't seem to make a lot of difference because they will still produce lots of flowers on the laterals, on the small laterals. So you could prune or not prune, it wouldn't really matter. The plant will typically form its own way and will produce fruit.
because I was reading that actually mass producers, that's what they do sometimes, they push the branches
put them
a bit-
down?
Yeah.
Only, and that comes, all that is doing is pruning in a production sense. So they don't want to climb up a ladder to get to the fruit. So they're pruning to make it down lower, so they have long pieces like that and they produce fruit down the end typically. And that's because they can get the fruit easier. So it doesn't look, as a plant though, it doesn't look that good. It doesn't look like, yeah. So you can certainly do that.
But I do notice, like, if the one which upright branches, which just goes really straight up,
Yep.
they don't produce much of a fruit.
No, as soon as it goes to that,
Yeah.
they produce on that side. The main tip of the plant is different, so as soon as it starts to go off the side, it will start to produce
Yeah.
fruit.
Yeah.
Those, when I do promote